Yo, there's something beautiful about Bearcats basketball. High flying.
Kenyon with a jam.
Shot denying.
Miles rejected.
There's just an...
That's going to do it, folks. In a season full of not being able to get through that intro video that I worked so damn hard on. It took me days. I spent weekends working on that thing to air it all season as the Bearcats were going to make a deep run in the NCAA tournament. And unless the Cats go crazy, and there is a very slim hope, and it is slim because of a man named Jizzle. We'll get to that in just a little bit. But in terms of the Bearcats getting an outright berth to the NCAA tournament due to their work, it's not going to happen. 62 for the Mountaineers, 59 for the Cincinnati Bearcats. What a strange basketball game as we break this down on Chatterbox Bearcats. Win or lose, we're here after every game. You can catch it on YouTube or wherever you get your audio podcasts. I'm Chuck Walter, Houdini, Mr. Hudson Klauke, a co-host of mine on the show today. I came down to the studio to set up the show with about a minute 15 to go, a minute 40 to go. It was like a 7-8 point game. May have even been like 30 seconds to go. 7-8 point game. I walked upstairs and saw Tyler Betsy almost hit a three to tie this game. What the hell happened today, Houdini? Welcome.
Ain't that a microcosm for the whole damn season? They strung us along till the last second of this game. I mean, there was 14 seconds left. We were down 9. I started setting this shit up, and I'm like, wait a minute. I can hear my girlfriend downstairs saying like, oh, I'm like, she doesn't even really watch. What's happening? I come down. Dan Skilling's 2, a steal, a 3. All of a sudden, it's a 3-point game. Tyler Betsy had a chance to go down as a legend. I don't care that he's a freshman. Wide open shot. Came up short. But come on, man. This is a must-win game. And we flat out looked bad and down the stretch. Like, we crumbled down the stretch. We've seen it all season, really. But to see that happen when it's do or die, where you got to win a game, I mean, it's disheartening. It kind of tied a little bow on the gift of this season for us, if you want to call it a gift.
Oh, a gift. Oh, yeah. It's been awesome. It's been awesome.
A gift from hell.
It's literally the season from hell. And what's crazy about it is Jizzle pokes the ball away from a West Virginia player. The call, obviously, it wasn't overturned. Its stand is called because I thought it was off. Quite frankly, I thought we got the benefit of the doubt there. I thought Jizzle hit it out. Yeah, you're shaking your head. Yep.
100%.
Nodding your head, I should say. Yep. So that was probably a gift wrap there for Cincinnati, but we couldn't take advantage of it at the end of the day. And here's the crazy thing, man. Cincinnati teams string us along like that all the time. I mean, we saw the Bengals do it in football season till the very end of the year, gave us hope. It's kind of the Cincinnati thing. Like, they're out of it. They're back in it. They're down. They come back. They have a chance. And when they have those chances, for whatever reason, I have never seen a program, and maybe it's just because it's the program I cheer for, but I have never seen a program less clutch than the Cincinnati Bearcats. I mean, how many times I can go back to a Marcus Sykes wide open jumper to beat Syracuse that was missed. I can go back to, how many shots? Eric Hicks against number 2 Villanova, the wide open 3. The crowd was ready to storm the court. Nothing. I have never seen a university that has less clutch moments on the basketball floor in the last 25 years than the Cincinnati Bearcats. Take away maybe David DeJulius. He randomly was the most clutch player in Cincinnati history.
That's few and far between, man, especially under Wes's tenure. We haven't seen a whole lot of it. The most clutch moments happen in the NIT, which kind of gives you an idea where the program is right now. We didn't deserve to win this game just based on how we crumbled. I was having PTSD thinking back to the first game at home we played against West Virginia. That's how bad our offense looked at times. It was basically just 4 guys staring at Jizzle James dribbling the ball. It was a rough stretch. We only gave up 62, but hell, our defense looked horrific for a long period of this game. Jizzle tied it up with that ridiculous 3 to make it 50-50. And what did we do? We went and let them shoot 2 wide open 3s to bust it open to 6 points. So listen, it was obviously going to be an uphill battle to try to win 5 of 6 with this team and what we've seen them do this season. for it to end this early is disappointing. I mean, hell, could we not have just strung us along a little bit longer? We're still going to be watching. We'll still be doing the show, but I mean, at this point, it's dead and gone. The tournament hopes are dead.
Yeah, we got someone in the chat saying one home win against TCU, and you fickle fans will be saying, can UC be this year's NC State? Hey, it had nothing to do with NC State winning a regular season game. They just won the ACC tournament. So if we can win the Big 12, sure, we can be NC State. We'll hop back on board. But I just played that. I've loved you with an everlasting love. The season's 1,000% over, fellas. You're not beating Houston. You're not winning out. The team's just not good enough. There's no room for error, and there's going to be an error the rest of the way. I hate to break it to you. It's done. Some comments in the chat about some clutch players in the past. Troy Copain against Purdue in the NCAA tournament. Obviously, that one escaped my mind. Kevin Johnson would have had one against UConn had there not been the full court shot to tie it up. And then Sean Kilpatrick had a few, specifically the one on the road at UConn, where he just pulled up from three and knocked it down. So there's three right there. And Copain DeJulius definitely had one or two. But it does feel like we have opportunities to win the game quite a bit on last second shots, and we always miss them.
It's been a while. Jihad Muhammad against Xavier. Nobody remembers it because he brought it to overtime. He hit a ridiculous three, and we just lost in overtime. But that was sick. More so recent history. It's been rough sledding. I think CMOS is against like San Francisco is the one that comes to mind in the NIT.
There's actually been a lot now that I come to think of it. There were plenty of Stones moments last year too. Never buzzer beater, I guess, but it's tough,
there
man.
Was a couple. We had some when we did the live reaction. It was usually CMOS, and CMOS didn't suit up tonight, which sucked. I know he's had a down year for sure. But in a do or die season, you want CMOS Lukosius on the floor. Could have knocked down some threes, maybe. Hell, we shot 28% from the line, 2 of 7. Right there. If you just knock down a couple of those, maybe this is a different ball game. And just a lot of the little things, man. The defensive rebounding. Dylan Mitchell, where are you, man? He was getting bullied in the on the rebounding side of things. And I'm like, what are you doing, dude? You're the most athletic guy on the floor. Put a fucking body on somebody and box him out. The amount of second chance opportunities they got is just absurd, and it's unacceptable.
It's not only unacceptable, it's a trend. It's who they are. Like, this is just who they are. It's a soft team. It's pretty unfortunate, but when you see it throughout the course of an entire season, like in the Big 12, I'd have to say we've only won the rebounding battle, maybe 2 times, 3 times? I mean, it hasn't been many.
On one hand.
We're talking about the best rebounding team in the conference a season ago. That was Cincy. Our guy Vic, the big Vic that loves the show, underrated rebounder apparently, because you lose him and Newman, and I mean, you go from best in the conference to, I'd have to look up the stats, but they got to be damn near the bottom. Just off the top of my head, with how bad they've been getting killed every single game on the glass, pretty incredible. But when this one changed, Hudson, UC was up 6. It felt like they had a pretty good chance to win. Was this one? Mitchell had just hit a 2. His foot was on the line, a deep 2. Jizzle James. It's Aziz Bandago defending. Was it Small? I think it was Small. And basically has his head turned. He's looking for someone. And Jizzle tries to get cute with it, go behind him and poke the ball away and reaches in. Was it a foul? You'd have to go back and see the tape in slow motion, but they're going to call that. Jizzle had 3 fouls in the game. You don't do that. That's just not smart basketball, even if you think you have a takeaway. I guess he was going for the kill to go up 8 the other way, but he gets called for the foul there. That's number 4. His ass is on the bench. There's 7 minutes to go in the game, or 8 minutes to go in the game at that point. In 1 minute and 40 seconds, West Virginia goes on a 7-0 run. They regain the lead, and they never look back. That is your difference in the game. Just a very, very frustrating season because they give you glimmers of hope, but then you see today what we saw all along, and that is this team is just not good enough. There's nothing about them that's good enough. Jizzle James, good enough. I hope he stays, because if not, it's going to be one of those Tari Eason situations where he's in the NBA, lighting it up, and we're like, he went to Cincinnati. And I was like, well, his page says he went to Virginia. He's not going to Virginia.
You got to be smarter than that if you're Jizzle James, man. That's 2 games in a row where he's basically taken himself out of the game. Iowa State fouls, I mean, those were phantom. The last two were ridiculous. Even if he didn't foul him on that steal attempt, you can't even attempt that when you have 3 fouls. And we had to take him out. Then they started full court pressing, and we lost. We went completely off the rails. We had no idea what we were doing. The full court press ruined us. I wish we would have implemented a full court press on them a little bit earlier. But it kind of comes down to it. It felt like we were still relying on Jizzle James contested jump shots, Day Thomas contested jump shots. Nothing was easy. The offense wasn't fluid. Some of the lineups we put out there, I mean, for long stretches, it was Day, Skillings, Josh Reed, Dylan Mitchell, and Aziz Bandago. You think that's going to be a fluid offense? You think there's going to be a lot of space out on the floor? And it's not really a knock on Wes. It just really is the roster construction. Without Simas Lukosius, it's tough to say where do you go. I mean, Betsy didn't have it tonight. So at the end of the day, we're just not good enough, flat out.
Yeah, we've known that for a while. MW2 Top G in the chat. He's not a fan of ours. He pops in the show to kind of hate comment us. He's hopped in the comments and called me a clown from time to time. Yes, but he says when they don't play aggressive, you'll bitch about it, and then Jizzle makes an aggressive play, and you bitch. I'm not bitching. I'm just saying in that situation when he's your entire offense and you got 3 fouls. I mean, look, it's real time. He's got a point there. Like it's real time. You're trying to make a play. You can't fault someone for trying to make a play. But as couch coaches dissecting the game afterwards, was it a smart basketball play? No, it wasn't. Sorry for speaking the truth.
First off, it was a dumb play. I don't care that it was live action. If you have 3 fouls and you're the vocal point or the focal point, I always say vocal point, completely wrong. Focal point of the offense, you cannot reach in. You cannot reach in at all. There is no circumstance in which you can do that with 8 minutes left in the basketball game. It is a dumb basketball play. We love Jizzle James. He's the only reason we stayed in this game. But at the end of the day, objectively, it's stupid. You got to trust Jizzle James not to make that play. He made a dumb play. I'm sure he could have it back. Wishes he had it back. But at the end of the day, we had to take him out, and that's when West Virginia went on their little run.
Since he takes care of the basketball, 6 turnovers in the game. They fail to get to 60 points with just 59. It's a team that had scored 70 plus in the last 4. They'd scored 80 plus in 3 of the last 4. They'd hit 90. Simas Lukosius is good, man. And he's someone that at least requires, he provides a little bit of gravity to where defenders are draped all over him and free up some open men. But West Virginia, they looked like one of the best defensive teams in the country with how we were playing. Like literally, how many times were there 6 seconds on the shot clock and we were 40 feet away from the basket, near half court, dribbling? There was one where Dan didn't even realize how much time was on the shot clock. There were times where Day had it 35 feet from the bucket with 3. There was, I think Tyler Betsy had one where there were 5 on the shot clock and he's 40 feet away from the basket. Like, get it inside the teeth, man. Get it inside the 3-point line and play some inside-out basketball. And unfortunately, we've just found out that the hard way that this team doesn't really have inside-out basketball in them.
I mean, a lot of times it's 2-on-5, man. It's Day and Jizzle, and they're kind of passing it over to Aziz Bandaga or Dylan Mitchell or Josh Reed, and all they do is look to pass it again, get it back to him. Now all of a sudden you got 10 seconds. They're trying to do some ridiculous. I mean, that's why they shot Jizzle James 6 of 20, Day Thomas 5 of 15, because they're the only guys we can rely on to create their own shot. So they're getting the ball late in the shot clock and having to heave something up. It's insane that we actually were in a position to win the game. That's why this is so frustrating. Like, we didn't even play well. We still had up 6 points with not much time on the clock. And then I think they went on like a 15-3 run to close it before Dan Skillings had those 2 threes to make it a 1-possession ball game. We did cover somehow. If you're on the right side of that, I took money line because I want to go down with the ship, like the captain that I am, or I like to think I am. But yeah, it was rough offense, man. Rough offense. And dude, the first half, our defense was so shitty. Fran Fraschilla was dead serious, like dissecting a backdoor cut. He goes, "This is what West Virginia's doing. He's circling guys. They're doing a backdoor cut." You see that? I'm like, yeah, no shit. That's just bad defense, guys. Clean it up. But I mean, at this point, season's over. You still want guys to play hard. You want to at least have some momentum for guys that are coming back, keep morale high. But at this point, I'm not sure what we're playing for. Yeah. You got the Sean Miller thing up.
Yeah, at this point, we're playing for that guy to be yelling and angry, which has nothing to do with us. But hey, can't let them be happy. Christian Wolf in the super chat throws a couple bucks our way. Appreciate it. Can we fire Cunningham? Well, Cunningham has hired a baseball coach that has the program on the right track right now, inside the top 25. So he gets some grace for that. Scott Satterfield going into year 3. I think you give Scott Satterfield one more chance. He's not the worst coach in the country, although I'm not really encouraged by what I've seen from Satterfield, especially after they lost 5 straight games to round out the season last year after a great start. So, yeah, I'm not encouraged whatsoever. Here's the thing. He's not getting fired. He has a buyout too. Everyone has a buyout. This is the way the industry works. You could suck at your job and you're getting $5 million the way out the door. So John pretty much, he would have to go if Wes and Scott went, right? At that point, if both his hires in football and basketball didn't pan out, you would have to think that 100% the only thing, especially if there's a buyout involved, he has to go up to President Pinto and ask for $15 million to buy out both of his coaches because they're literally fans at the Nippert Stadium gates and at Fifth Third with pitchforks, plastic ones, of course. At that point, his job is pretty screwed. But as of right now, I think he's safe, which is a crazy thing to say because it's been bad.
I think he's safe just from the buyout perspective. Like, we would need some absurd scandal to happen for John Cunningham to get fired, because then you'd be looking at what you want to buy out Wes Miller, you want to buy out Satterfield, and buy out John Cunningham. Who's cutting the check there, folks? I don't think it's happening. Wes is going to be the head coach next year, based on everything we've seen. He just did enough to give some people a little bit of hope with that.
Hold
that
on.
winning streak.
Let me hop in here. Jack's a freaking idiot. I don't know who this guy is, but Jack, who the hell are you? I don't come at commenters on the show very often, but I'm coming at this one. He said the Big 12 really picked Cincinnati and UCF over SMU and Memphis. Jack, you're a moron. With all due respect, you're an absolute moron. That's it. You can go back to it.
I don't even know what he's trying to. He's claiming Big 12 should have Memphis and SMU. What are you talking about? We're talking about a football team. Listen. Let's get to football, I guess. Hell, we're on to football season. We went to the college football playoff as one of the only mid-major teams. I didn't see Memphis. I didn't see SMU get invited to that, guys. We have a storied basketball program.
We're in the same conference as SMU for years and years, and we mostly kicked their asses.
Ragdolled them. So yeah, that's
from
nonsense.
A few Larry Brown years.
But I don't know, Chuck. Not a lot of positives to point to in this game. It's still just shocking how much we crumbled. I know we've seen it time and time again, but to watch it happen to this degree in this moment where you need it, you just need it, and to crumble like this, it's sad, man. It is a sad, sad day as a UC fan.
Yeah, the sad thing is we have a lot of season left and truly no way to get in. I just don't see any path to 9-11. Let's say you lose one more, you lose to Houston, which the Cats aren't beating Houston. We'll give ourselves some false hope, but they're not winning that basketball game. And assuming you don't, the best you can do is 9-11 in conference. Now, here's the thing. There was a little part of us towards the end of last year that had like a glimmer of hope. It was like, all right, if we beat Oklahoma State and Oklahoma to round out the season and get to 8-12, maybe, just maybe, we have no bad losses. Maybe, just maybe, we get in the NCAA tournament. That was 8-12. This would be 9-11. I just don't see any path to doing it. There's no quad one wins. There's no wins that you throw on your resume and can really point to. Like, what would you point to right now? BYU at home. That's the big one right now. And true, there are no bad losses now that Utah's starting to win some games. But I think you get a large enough sample size in the Big 12, 20 games, to where if you can't finish 500 in your own conference, maybe you do look to SMU and give them a bid. Not to the conference, obviously. SMU, that's a silly take. I know they have the Dallas market surrounding them, but silly take that SMU should be in this conference over Cincinnati.
Well, it's more so just looking at this schedule and saying TCU at home, people are chalking that as a win. They just beat Texas Tech. We could very well lose to TCU. We could lose to Baylor, lose to Houston. We could finish this season very poorly. I would think we'll probably go like 3-2 in this stretch. Sure, if we went 5-0, we're right back in it. We're right back in it. We beat Houston on the road, quad 1A, which we haven't seen all year. Our sole quad 1 win is UCF, man, on the road. Not great. Not great. They're tinkering with getting into quad 2 territory already. So I don't know, man. TCU and Baylor, I think we could lose both of those. We could go on a little losing streak, 4 games, 5 games at Houston, and then hell, Kansas State, we could lose that too. So
A
I
lot of
don't think
losable
we're going to
games.
go on some run.
We've been saying that a lot
Losable.
this year. There's a lot of losable games when you look at the schedule, unfortunately. I thought they showed some fight when they went up by 6, man. I thought they had a chance to get it done, and it was just one play after another. The offensive rebounding again from the opposition kills the Cats. Let's start with this, though. I always say let's start with this when we're like 20 minutes into the show. It's a crutch phrase. Let's go with this. Wes out of timeouts is like John Wooden. I mean, his sets are unbelievable. The offense is humming. They make some backdoor. Aziz, seals his man down low for a reverse layup after a great backdoor pass from Dylan Mitchell, or it's something every time that makes you believe that Wes can dial him up. The question is, every other minute of the game, why can't they run offense? Immediately after timeouts, they can. They get good looks pretty consistently. Every other possession of the game, I saw one backdoor cut tonight from Jizzle, got swatted on the play. Good to see Jizzle go backdoor. Aside from that, it's just a bunch of dudes standing around. Dan Skillings, he doesn't get his steps in during a game, man. He just stands there on the perimeter.
It is wild, and usually you would think, a guy that's constantly hovering around the perimeter is a dead-eye three-point shooter. Not the case. It is a lot of guys just standing around and constant ball screens like 5 feet beyond the three-point line, not where you even want to set those. The offense is struggling, man. And for a second, Josh Reed, I think, had 4 of our first 6 points. And I go, holy shit, we're gonna get a Josh Reed game. Josh Reed is gonna take us higher. I was watching that Cheez-It commercial, Chuck, and I just picture Wes saying who's feeling cheesy, and Josh Reed's definitely the guy. I woke up feeling the cheesiest, coach. I guarantee that's him, and that's not an insult. Josh Reed, listen, did he hit the backboard on a 3 attempt today? Did he shoot it 6 feet
A step
over
back
the rim?
3 too. It would have been beautiful had it gone down.
That would have won the game. But it starts to come down to a talent level. I don't think that we have it with this roster. All these guys individually are pretty good players, but collectively, we've seen it time and time again. We maybe had a little bit of an anomaly with Jizzle James just going absolutely lights out the last few games, hitting contested jumpers. Tonight wasn't the case. 6 of 20, 1 of 8 from 3. I think we came down to earth. This is probably closer to what this team is offensively, at least. I think even though we gave up 62, I still think our defense had a lot of holes in it that just shouldn't have happened. Javon Small, I mean, hell, we played pretty good. 5'11", 16 points with Javon Small. Josh Reed had a hell of a defensive effort against him. He didn't absolutely kill us. Obviously, he had a good game.
Hansberry killed us.
Yeah, 17 with 13 boards. Yeah, so that's going to kill you. And, Aziz Bandaogo, for all of his downfalls as an offensive player, I thought he actually was pretty solid on the glass. He actually had 10 boards, but he continues to do that damn thing where he tries to block shots that he has no business trying to block. And the weak side rebounder every single time. I see it time and time again. I don't know how Wes hasn't told him to stay on your goddamn feet if you're not the one defending the basketball. He's going up with another guy on our team, and then he leaves the backside rebound open. It happens too much. And at this point in the season, how has that not been addressed?
We've seen it for years and years now, man.
God,
a year and just about an
frustrating.
entire season to be exact. But Stay Crazy pops in. Wes is 6-40 versus quad one. Is that accurate or is that a little bit of hyperbole? That's accurate.
Is that true?
I think it is. I mean, it's something crazy. Stay Crazy. He knows what he's talking about. So we're gonna ride with it. Wes is 6-40 versus quad one, and we're talking about bringing him back. I'm not talking about bringing him back. We don't have a choice. I mean, if you think at this point in the season Wes Miller's on the hot seat, you're crazy. Like that's the bummer of this all. He's not going to get fired, and it is what it is, man. Like I've said this for weeks now. Like you get 4 years, you get a presidential term to kind of earn that you're the guy, to show that you can take the program to the levels that you want to get it to. And after 4 years, if you haven't gotten the program to where you're supposed to be getting it to, typically you're gone, right? Like at a high major school like Cincinnati. Jake can say whatever he wants about it, but it's a top 15 program in NCAA history. You get 4 seasons, and he is in a strange, good situation for him, where if they were to let him go in a month or so, they'd have to pay him $10 million on the way out the door. And that's a lot of money. And the question becomes, are they going to pay that $10 million? And the AD is not going to fire him, because if the AD fires him, then the AD's got to go too, right? That's just an admission of guilt. Like if John Cunningham were to fire Wes Miller, John Cunningham would be fired 30 seconds later. You would have to think. It's like, you just cost our athletic department $10 million in 4 years. We'll pay the $4 million for you, bub. You're gone. Like that's how I look at it.
Well, it's like a GM that drafts a quarterback, third overall pick, and he clearly sucks, but they're like, I can't cut ties with this guy because that would just be admitting I picked the wrong guy. So yeah, John Cunningham is certainly going to stick to his guns here, especially with what's going on in the football program too, because that could be a similar situation. We'll wait and see what happens with Satterfield. He's still a little earlier in his tenure than Wes Miller, but especially with a basketball program, you get 4 seasons, man. You got to make the tournament. It's not that high of a bar. A lot of very average basketball teams get into the NCAA tournament, and he has not been able to do it. This is now going to be 6 straight seasons without an NCAA appearance, which, during the Mick Cronin era, we couldn't even fathom that. We're like, what do you mean? We always play in March. That's what we do as a program. Not anymore, guys. Not anymore. He's going to have to figure out a lot of things this offseason, figure out what guys he wants to retain, really sit down and look at the roster construction of the team. Because I think a lot of people made the mistake. Hell, beginning of the season, we all thought this was a top 15 team. Clearly, we are not. We are probably right where we are right now. At best, a bubble team. If we got hot, sure, we could sneak in. If we had a hot hand like Jizzle James, carry us through some games. But overall, he's going to have to make some big decisions and attack the portal like no other. Sean Abayev, I welcome you with open arms. I would love to see you with that little step back, southpaw, 3-pointer, because that would have been our best offense tonight, straight up.
Stay Crazy giving us fire. Stay Crazy, by the way, is nowhere near Jake. He's just an upset Bearcats fan. Jake's trolling. But he says they spent how much on the new indoor facility? Okay, assuming basically that or instigating that the Bearcats can easily pay West because they spent all that money on a new practice facility. Little different scenarios to some degree, I would think. Christian Wolf coming in with the super chat, $3. We appreciate it, Christian. Give Josh Reed Dan's NIL money. Well, someone's probably going to get Dan's NIL money because it doesn't seem like he's going to be coming back next year. But again, who knows, man? Like he makes some lazy plays and lazy passes and is just kind of sloppy with it, throwing it all over the floor. But it doesn't necessarily look like he's 100% disengaged, or at least today, because there were 3 straight possessions. I was solely focused on him on defense. And I was like, let's see the effort that Dan's putting in, fighting through screens. And it looked like he was working hard on the defensive end. He was just getting cooked.
I thought, listen, there's a lot of chatter about him on Twitter. I thought Dan Skillings, he showed effort tonight. Listen, he didn't have a great game. He had those, the 2 threes at the very end to get us back into it and make maybe think we're going to have a miracle on our hands. he had some effort tonight. He wasn't disengaged. He didn't look like he quit on the season. He didn't look like he got his bag, as everyone said, and just decided to quit trying in basketball. He's just had a really rough stretch. And, is this a guy that you want to bring back? I'm not sure. It would have to come down to what is he looking at NIL wise. I hate that that's now kind of where we're at, but it doesn't look like we're trending towards Dan Skillings being a UC Bearcat next year, especially with, Seamus Lukosius goes out with an injury and we're putting in Josh Reed in the starting lineup and not Dan Skillings. So I think that can kind of tell you where Wes's head is at with Dan Skillings as well.
We got David popping on the chat and said that your logic makes no sense. He can't fire the guy because he hired him. That's ludicrous. Does it not make perfect sense? Like John Cunningham, all his hires aside from baseball, like statistically, whatever you call the cup that accumulates all the athletic departments teams together in one. Cincinnati had the lowest in the conference, like one of the worst in the Power Five, right? Like objectively, his hires have not been leading very good sports programs as of right now, specifically basketball and football. They've not been good. It's been 6 straight seasons combined between the two of really bad play, not just like average play, but bad play, below average in conference for 6 straight years. And granted, the American year, there was one that was above, a couple that were above average, but that's the American, right? You better be above average in the AAC. But it would be an admission of guilt. Like if he were to fire Wes and ask the athletic department for $10 million, like he'd be gone. So he's not going to be the one that says, see you, Wes. Like John Cunningham would be the first one to go in this situation before Wes Miller, I would think.
Well, it just comes down to historically, this is not what UC does. We don't fire coaches. It happened with John Brannon in a wild, wild scenario where we had 3 rostered basketball players coming into the next season. So, and then he found, some clause that he claimed John Brannon violated to get him out of the contract and had a settlement. This is just not something historically UC does. We do not have the funds to just dish out $10 million. And at this point, he's going to be the basketball coach. I don't know what to tell you guys.
Well, that's the thing. What if there was an angry booster that made just enough money? It's not going to be either of us two that made just enough money to where they wanted to see our beautiful basketball program back on track. And they believed that strongly that Wes wasn't the guy and was willing to throw the brink truck. Then maybe it could happen. I don't know.
He deserves to be fired. I want to make that clear.
Oh, we've both said this. I'm just not going to call for the guy's job because one, there's no more reason to put more pressure on him than's already been on him this season. A, B, what the hell are we going to do? We've already led the pitchforks. We've already made our points. And C, the most important thing, he's not getting fired.
We got a lot of hate in the comments today. This is what you see if you do this poorly and you're freaking 5-10 in the Big 12 and you came in with high hopes. People are going to be pissed off, and I love it. But yeah, we got a lot of hate. Everyone is very, as Wes says so elegantly, very pissed off. And I don't blame him, man. I mean, this has been probably, is from an expectation standpoint, the biggest letdown since I've been watching basketball for the last freaking 25 years. This is the biggest letdown of a season that I've had in a very, very long time. And I can't think of any other team.
Forget the season. It's the way that this entire tenure has happened. We've believed, man, like everyone believed in Wes Miller. There were very few Cats fans out there, at least that I talked to. I was one of the haters. I was a year 2 hater. It was the first half against Xavier where they went down by 17 points at 5/3. And I'm like, I have never seen a more poorly coached basketball team than this. Sean Miller's running circles around Wes. This guy may not be able to coach. Kenyon Martin goes in the locker room, gives him the pep talk. Wes coaches him up. They come back, they fight that season, whatever. I was willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. Last year, I was like first year in the Big 12, missing 1 piece, 2 pieces. The team seems to rally around him. No one's transferring. There's no internal issues, it seems like. Let's give him 1 more year. This year, there was no excuses. I told you before the season that unless some sort of catastrophic injury happened, and I don't think Tyler McKinley is defined by that, I said that a failure of a season would be not making the NCAA tournament. It should result in, questions being asked about whether this is the guy leading the program moving forward. And somewhere along the way, when we brought it up, our friend Eric Lilly, who comes in with facts, we come in with passion. He comes in with facts. He said, fellas, there's $10 million. There's 10 million issues in firing Wes Miller right now. And Sean Abayev is not one of them.
And it sucks. Somebody mentioned that he was a great coach at UNCG. He made the tournament twice at UNC Greensboro. Is it so much to ask to make the tournament once in 4 years at the University of Cincinnati? I don't think so. And you really haven't seen the strides or the player development either in a lot of these players. I mean, we've seen guys take a step back, quite frankly. So even if we get, Sean Abayev and Tillery in here and we get some portal hauls, it's really tough to have faith, regardless of the roster construction, that Wes Miller is the guy to lead us back to the promised land. Like, I mean, we saw it even Kansas. Hell, they handpicked. They have one of the best NIL rosters you'll ever see in your life, and they got shelled by BYU last night by 30. So it comes down to coaching. It's a big aspect in college basketball, and I'm not sure Wes Miller is the guy for the job. We're going to see it again next season. We're going to do this song and dance. Hopefully I'm wrong, but everything we've seen on the court says otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't think John Brannon was going to get fired. Like, there was a 1% chance before that conference championship game against Houston that he was out the door. And then you saw him walk away from the team and do the handshake line with 40 seconds left and immediately bolt to the locker room. And that's where you knew something was a little fishy. You heard the rumors and bam, you get a Rothstein bomb a couple days after the season that he's gone. But hey, man, is what it is at this point. I mean, you know my saying, everyone that watches and listens to this show. It's I yell because I care. And you haven't heard me yelling a ton tonight. It's because I don't care. Like they beat the hell out of me this year. They're not going to get it done. If they make some magical 5-day run in the Big 12 tournament and get to the NCAA tournament, you, myself, Niehaus, Lilly, we'll do our plan that we had at the beginning of the year. We're going to hire the tour bus and we're going to drive all the way to, hopefully it's in like Spokane. We'll drive across the country. We'll all lose our day jobs just to go watch the Bearcats as an 11 seed in the NCAA tournament. Unfortunately, that great idea that we had to produce content is not going to happen because this team's not winning 5 games in 5 days. Anyways, I've gotten through most of my notes. What do we have here? Yeah, so one thing is if Dylan Mitchell is coming back next year and you plan on playing him at the 4 and Sean Abayev's at the 3, you better get yourself a stretch 5. And the more and more I say that, the more and more I think that it's going to be tough to retain Dylan Mitchell unless you have a complete roster overhaul. Because when have the Bearcats ever had a stretch 5? I mean, wasn't Biggie, wasn't Toyloy, wasn't Jamal Davis or Kareem Johnson, wasn't DeBerry. You go through the list, and I don't think this school has ever sniffed a stretch 5.
What was Ibrahima Thomas? He could shoot like an elbow jumper, right? He was kind of a 5, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I think he played at the same time as Yancey and played the 4, but he was like 6'10", so maybe he was a 5. But his 3-point shot was not a thing of beauty, man. Let me tell you that much.
That was like a stretch 5 for that period of basketball. Now you got to be shooting like Steph Curry threes to be considered a stretch 5. But yeah, Dylan Mitchell's probably the most interesting guy for. I would think there's a big subset of fans that really want Dylan Mitchell back next year.
I want him back. The issue is his NIL is going to cost a ton, right? Unless you're going to reduce his rate. But being a McDonald's All-American and coming from Texas, he's one of your highest paid players. And if that's an issue, to where you have a budget, you got to kind of allocate, and he can't really shoot or score.
Right. If it's like a salary cap thing and we're paying a guy like Dylan Mitchell the max, that can't happen. He just isn't that guy. We've seen it. I like a lot of the things that he does. McDonald's All-American. Sometimes it seems more like a Burger King All-American, if you ask me. But he's probably the biggest question mark on this entire roster. Like, do you want to allocate that much money to a guy like he's kind of like a gritty, he'll get his lob dunks. He can't shoot free throws to save his life. No perimeter jump shot whatsoever. Struggles offensively, but he's a great defender. He does a lot of the little things, but his rebounding too, man. Like that's where I'm like, Dylan, you, you have the frame. Like that's an effort thing. That's just a positioning thing, being a smart basketball player, getting in positions to rebound the basketball. So if you're going to allocate a lot of money to a guy like Dylan Mitchell, he needs to improve drastically. Otherwise, I think if you can get 2 or 3 impact players instead of a guy like Dylan Mitchell, I think you maybe make that switch.
I wonder how that even works with NIL. It's so new that you're kind of learning the nuances and you almost have to talk to players to figure out what all goes down with the NIL. But in terms of them just like Dylan Mitchell, for example, let's say they're paying him what a milli, a couple mil, something like that, and he's playing more like a $500,000 player. Can you like reduce rates after a season? Do you say, hey, here's your offer entering next year? Because Sorsby said something about this after the football season, right? He's like, my offer was good enough to where I will be returning to the University of Cincinnati.
No, it seems like it's a year-to-year thing. Like we saw with Quinn Ewers going to Ohio State and then immediately leaving for Texas. Seems like it's a year-to-year thing, but you're right. Like the nuances between behind the NIL, like nobody knows. You have no insight.
Vic
You
Locken
can't
left.
see.
People said, "Why'd you push Vic Locken out?" And now the common knowledge is they didn't push him out. Clemson just came in with more money than we were going to give him.
Right. So, I mean, for all we know, somebody's going to pluck a guy like Dylan Mitchell and pay him a ton of money. I don't think it's going to be like a blue blood program because I don't know if he's shown that he's that caliber of a player, but he's a nice piece. He's a nice piece. And if you get the right offense around him, he could be successful.
And
And
here's the
with his
crazy thing.
yeah.
He's worth a scholarship. Like we're just talking NIL. Like go back to 2021 or 2018 or 2015, any single season. Dylan Mitchell's a Bearcat. Like I'd love to have Dylan Mitchell on a roster. Give up a scholarship? Sure. I mean, think of all the players that have eaten up scholarships in years past. Dylan Mitchell's better than 98% of them. It's just in the NIL times. How much are you worth? How much do you demand? Do you deserve that bag? Or are we going to give you that bag? That's kind of the state of where we are. And then the other nuance is okay, let's say he does demand 7 figures, whatever it may be. Do you just funnel in some more NIL money? Do we just drink 40 more natty or Cincy Lights a piece and add more into the pot to retain them? Like how does all this work? It's a strange time, man. It's changed so quickly since Mick Cronin was here, since COVID, and college basketball is just it's a wild, wild west right now in the Midwest.
It sure is. And one thing we know for certain is Aziz Bandago will not be back next season. So I would think Wes Miller's thinking, hey, if Dylan Mitchell wants to return and it's not some absurd price tag, he's going to bring him back because we all see, his ceiling is pretty high. If he could put things together, I don't think he's ever going to be a huge offensive threat. But if you could bring him in with a guy that is a threat on the perimeter, another big, that could open up things a lot for Dylan Mitchell. Because we said it all season, when you have 3 guys on the floor at one time that cannot shoot outside of 5 feet, it's going to clog things up and you're going to get 50-point duds every now and again. And we saw quite a few this year. So he's got a lot of work to do.
All right, let's get to the last super chat of the night. It's from Christian Wolf. He's funding us, man. He's funding us, and we're going to give this right back to the NIL fund for the Bearcats baseball team. We're going to start giving our money to people who deserve it, Houdini, that win games. But he says, who's going to be the 5 next year? It's an impossible question to answer right now. The answer is transfer portal, hopefully Jizzle James, hopefully Sean Abayev, transfer portal. I don't know. I mean, if you had a starting lineup of Jizzle James, Dylan Mitchell, and Sean Abayev sharpied in, that to me is at least like a good start. But unfortunately, you'd have to finish out the roster and you'd have to strike gold in the portal. And Wes has not really done that thus far in terms of striking gold. Landers Nolly was gold. Aside from Landers Nolly, solid, some definitely solid. Like CMOS has been good. Last year he was great, but he was never gold. Gold gets you over the top. This team's not been over the top.
No, and they're
Fool's
not
gold
easy to
is what we've
find.
been.
They're not easy to find, but a Landers Nolly really helps a team like this that struggles offensively. A guy that, 6'7", 6'8", can get his own shot at any given point, can shoot the 3 ball. You got to find good scorers, man. You got to find guys who can get their own shot, because right now it really is Day Thomas and Jizzle James dribbling the ball around and trying to get some space and launching up a contested jump shot. That's our offense. It's not going to cut it. He's got a lot of work to do, but you're right, man. You get Shanabayev, Jizzle James as a core, just two guys there, and Tillery, obviously, and Day Thomas, I believe, is coming back. Then you got some stuff to work with, and you got to hit the portal hard. You got to do some Iowa State scouting, get these mid-major guys where you don't necessarily have to pay them, $2 million to show up on campus. And then you're playing with gas, but we'll see what happens, because he hasn't shown that he can actually do that. So,
all right, John White finishes up with, doesn't sound like we have much faith in Arrington. To be honest with you, I've kind of forgotten that Arrington Page and Connor Hickman are on this team. It's been such a roller coaster of the last few weeks since we've seen either of those guys. I mean, it's been months for Hickman. But I did not see enough from Page this year that makes me think he's going to be some standout. Can he play at this level? Maybe so. We'll see, man. You got to reevaluate this thing after every single season. West Virginia had a completely different roster tonight than we saw a year ago. Who else had a completely different roster? Kansas State turned the thing over. Couple teams did for the most part and have been successful doing it. So is what it is, man. It was Texas Tech that did it too. So,
yeah, at some point, I'm wondering if Arrington Page just is what he is. I mean, you're looking at 2 seasons of basketball. He averaged 3 at USC, didn't play much, averages 4 at UC, doesn't play much. I don't know if I've seen enough to say, hey, I want to bring him back on a scholarship, because you certainly don't want to bring back like a core of this team. I mean, we see what this team is. It makes you physically sick in half of the games that we played this year. Not that he can't blossom into something. He showed flashes. He's got good footwork. He's a little slow. Maybe rebounding. He could do better than a guy like Dylan Mitchell, and Aziz for half the season didn't show up on the boards. But it's something the staff is going to have to evaluate. But you certainly don't want to just bring guys back because they're in the building when you're finishing in the bottom 4th of the Big 12. Can't happen.
Yep. That's where we stand right now. Is we're going to have to reevaluate this thing when the season's over. Wes is, tops, he's going to have one more year. He can't make the tournament 5 straight years and keep a job for a 6th.
Hope not.
I would hope not. That would be sad stuff. So he's going to have another year, most likely. Crazier things have happened, but most likely he's going to have another year, and he's going to be the one that's going to have to evaluate who is good enough. He let players come back that didn't contribute a ton last season. CJ Frederick, Pacelli Panther, shout out to the guy, excellent basketball player, a state champion. But clearly that scholarship could have gone to someone that may have given you a little more this season than CJ's given. Arrington Page, the same way. I know he's a developmental piece, but guess what? You didn't need 2 developmental bigs in McKinley and Page. You needed someone that was ready to step in and score the freaking basketball. And Wes clearly struck out with that this season, Page being that guy. We heard Wes early in the season say that he thought Page by February and March was going to be a completely different player. I haven't seen him progress at all this season, to be quite honest with you. So can Wes develop big men? There's another underlying storyline to this crazy 4-year tenure that we've gotten. This is life right now. Cincinnati falls to West Virginia 62-59. They show some fight. We love our guys, but unfortunately we have not loved the way this season has gone. This is Chatterbox Bearcats. You can find us wherever you get your audio podcasts and on YouTube. The energy is low right now. I'm going to go beat my wife's ass in ping pong. See you, Hudson.
Thank God you ended that with ping pong. I was like, Jesus Christ.
No, I was gonna say thank God my Wi-Fi didn't go out right then and there. I'd have the cops going to my house. But yeah, Kylan has been talking some smack about ping pong after I beat her yesterday 21-16. So we're gonna get after it. But peace, everyone. Subscribe to the show. We appreciate it.
See ya.